Welcome to Phase 2 of Marvel, the home of theft and fraudulence, the land of misplaced investments. We already gave our souls to the first 5 films of Marvel. It can't get any worse than that, guys, right? In this video I'll be exploring all 5 films of Phase 2 with close skepticism and sheer dedication. I want to know why this franchise is so damn successful, because it certainly can't be from its stories. Now I know, why does it seem like I've taken this so personally? They're just films where you can turn your brain off, relax, and enjoy. And yet there are millions of people who start shedding tears after a character dies. So you tell me, audience, is Marvel something you take serious or just easygoing? By the end of this video you'll be thinking you should have donated your money to UNICEF instead of commissioning the sequel to Ant-Man. So Iron Man 3, the character that kicked off the MCU like an opening ceremony for the Olympics, does so once again for Phase 2. The question is this any good? No, of course not. Why would it be? I wouldn't have made this video then. This movie takes place after the events of the Avengers, from which Tony Stark subsequently suffers from PTSD, anxiety attacks and insomnia. This direction of Marvel deciding to focus on the human aspects of being a hero was an interesting route that would actually sway my stance on Marvel.
Tell me.
How did you get out of the wormhole?
You doing, love, mama? Let me whisper in your ear.
Have they finally decided to go deeper with the stories, having the same wit as The Incredibles, the same suspense as the Dark Knight trilogy?
4, 3, come on! 2!
In the past, Iron Man's enemies have been people who the US Senate would deal with day to day, and in this one we are introduced to a different threat.
Some people call me a terrorist.
Oh, for God's sake, here we go again. I just can't be bothered. The Batman has the Joker, Superman has Lex Luthor, and Iron Man has the Mandarin, a powerful megalomaniac who bears the 10 rings of power. 3 rings for the elves, 7 for the dwarves.
9 for mortal men doomed to die.
The Mandarin is an iconic villain in the comics, so it was exciting to see how he would turn out in the silver screen.
I wouldn't go in there for 20 minutes.
Let's have Iron Man's archenemy be revealed as a farce and substitute it for our renowned comedy.
My name's Trevor Slattery.
It's so funny that no one is laughing. Before the reveal of the Mandarin's stupid identity, Tony Stark does something even more stupid by telling him his home address.
Here's my home address. 10880 Malibu Point.
My social security number is 346.
Wow, this is really bad. Maybe we should call the rest of the Avengers. Guys? Anyone? So we're getting to the part where he has to redeem himself. He's all alone, just like he was in the cave building the Iron Man suit. No, wait, there's a parasite.
Now you're just gonna leave me here, like my dad?
Yeah.
God, this kid is so annoying. There's a reason your dad's left you, and there's a reason Iron Man is as well. The ending is once again filled with bloated and hard-to-believe tropes. The real villain of the film is just, well...
I am the Mandarin!
The best part of the film is the post-credits scene with Bruce Banner. Not that it was amazing, but I'd rather watch that again than the rest of the film. Thor: The Dark World. I'd like to get this over as soon as possible. Where do we begin with this one? Since the Avengers was released, it feels like every solo feature has to raise the stakes by introducing an indestructible villain with intentions of conquest and power. And by doing this, you create a loophole because it would surely become a threat that the Avengers would face. I mean, what do they do when one of their allies is off on their own film?
Well, are you gonna help me or what?
In all the doom and gloom this movie had to offer, there were some positives to take. I thought the dynamic between Thor and Loki worked quite well, and their humorous chemistry is actually one of the rare moments in the MCU that are genuinely funny.
Now they're firing at us.
Yeah, thank you for the commentary, Loki. It's not at all distracting.
It makes you wonder if the Dark Elf plot was even necessary for Thor's development. The focus should have been centered with Loki as the villain, or anti-hero in this case. Unfortunately, they bring back the scientists from Earth. I mean, this pretty much speaks for itself.
Sure, I'd love some. So, I show up to work at the lab / your mom's house, fully expecting you to be moping around.
The fuck are you doing?
And let's not forget that this film wouldn't have happened if it weren't for the all-possessing, knowledgeable god with keen senses in eyesight and hearing, the great Heimdall. Everyone give it up for Heimdall. Without the guard of the Bifrost, Dark Elves would never have set foot in Asgard if they had someone who was, I don't know, not blind as a bat. Captain America: The Winter Soldier. No, it's not another World War II film. There'll be no Nazis or terrorists to fight in this one.
Was founded on the belief that humanity could not...
Oh dear, how sad, never mind.
Captain America is slowly starting to adapt to the 21st century. However, the events he faced in 1945 begin to haunt him once more through the organizations of Hydra, which had secretly been scheming behind the scenes of S.H.I.E.L.D. How did no one know about this? Before this film came out, I don't think many people were interested in Captain America. The Winter Soldier quickly changed everyone's views, and more importantly, it changed my view on America's hero. Now, I don't think this movie is amazing by any stretch of the imagination. There are many flaws and tropes like the rest. The action is both good and bad in this one. I think it can be quite hefty and repetitive with the constant gun shooting and nauseous editing. And other times the choreography is the best we've been treated to. Like the elevator scene, which is one of the best scenes in the whole bloody franchise. The espionage element is intriguing enough even though it was quite cartoonish and cliched through every unlocked mystery. There's a lot more emotional weight in this film, which was bound to happen at some point, just didn't think it would take 8 films to get there. There are a lot of irritating moments that don't really progress the story and make everything seem like a perfect jigsaw, when instead Marvel are playing the story out as if they're Jigsaw. The next film was Marvel's biggest gamble, their dark horse of the franchise, which could have turned completely sideways. And yet it turned out to be my favourite film of the Marvel franchise to date. Guardians of the Galaxy is the only film that I would go back and watch without force. For me, this is the quintessential superhero film that perfectly balances both the action and the comedy without feeling uneven.
Who are you?
Star-Lord.
Who?
Well, Star-Lord, man. Legendary outlaw.
It doesn't take itself too seriously, although it still falls into the trap of having a one-dimensional world domineering villain. The characters all work off each other in a charming and witty way that works effortlessly. It was refreshing to see Marvel deliver something different. And this was one of those rare moments where I have to praise them for taking a risk on more obscure comics. I think the main problem with this film really is the villain, Ronan the Accuser. He looked cool, and that's about it. Even Thanos didn't care if he died, and he's on his side. We move back to Earth with the Avengers Age of Ultron, and Marvel go back to square one again. They hit a smooth road for a couple of hours and they dive straight back into the dump. In Age of Ultron we see the beloved crew back together, and to be honest, I don't know why any of them aren't holding any grudges after facing a world-ending fate since the first Avengers film. This film is bloated with so many plot points that it tries to focus away from the main storyline. Not that the story was particularly interesting in the first place. The gang find themselves in Sokovia. At least it's not somewhere like Russia or the Middle East.
The Americans sent their circus freaks to test us. No surrender!
Oh, for God's sake.
You didn't see that coming?
We're introduced to these twins who are high on crystal meth. One of them does some weird thing with her hands to make the protagonist see nightmare-like visions. There was a lot of intrigue to be had here, and it would have been cool to see Scarlet Witch and Quicksilver as the primary antagonists in this film. But it wasn't to be.
There are no strings on me.
Ultron serves as the main villain for this film, the first AI villain in the Marvel Universe. Marvel showing its progressive direction by being more diverse and inclusive here. It's about damn time if you ask me. Now, Ultron doesn't really work because his origin is exactly the same as any other AI movie you've seen in the past. I wonder if they'll rebel and take over the world. Yep, that's exactly what happens. Who would have thought? Wait, he wants to pull apart a city into the sky and bring it down crashing in order to cause human extinction?
Sorry, I'm sure that's gonna be okay. I'm sorry.
And it's not just the main plot that bugs me here.
How'd a nice girl like you wind up working in a dump like this?
Fella done me wrong.
Got lousy taste in men, kid.
He's not so bad.
This. What is this? What am I looking at? Why was this so forced? It never seemed bona fide. This was complete bullshit. The only reason this happened was to add more depth to Clint Barton, because he was the least likeable out of the rest. The problem with the Age of Ultron is if you have too many things going on without being foreshadowed or touched upon in previous films, is that your concentration levels have to be on the ball constantly. The first Avengers at least had a more straightforward story that didn't ham-fist other elements in order to set up future films. It's studio interference at its worst. Marvel, Disney, Universal, it doesn't matter which distributor or conglomerate you are. They are all about money and nothing else. Their focus isn't on the stories, but how many cereal boxes with Iron Man on the cover they can sell. We move to the final film of Phase 2, Ant-Man. Now, like Guardians of the Galaxy, the balance of humour and action works well because it doesn't take itself too seriously. That automatically made this film a lot more watchable. So this is Marvel's first use of the de-aging effect. something that Marvel will over-rely on in the future films. It doesn't look bad, but after 10 to 15 years you'll begin to notice the difference. I think blockbuster movies in general these days rely far too much on digital effects like CGI. It doesn't hurt to use practical effects once in a while. If you look at the 1977 film, Star Wars, you'll notice the effects still hold up today because a lot of it was done with animatronics, puppetry and prosthetics. So Ant-Man is one of the more consistent films in the MCU. That being said, the bar has been set pretty low. The villain is played by Obadiah's son.
Darren, I don't think you understand.
You'd think he'd want revenge on Iron Man. He's not great or threatening at all, but the movie didn't have to rely on the antagonist to make the film entertaining. The action is well done, but the pacing and energy doesn't feel smooth all the time, which diminishes the development of its characters. If this movie wasn't as funny as it was, it wouldn't have been anywhere near as enjoyable, just as bland and mediocre as the rest.
Hey man, that's not cool.
So that's what I think of Phase 2 of Marvel. I think I got all my rage out. Will Marvel manage to continue its slope of depression in the next phase? We shall see.